Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to 100 Yards of Football. This is our draft prospect show where we get a chance to look at some of the top recruits that will be coming out, seniors or juniors out of the NCAA, and opting to go into the NFL draft for 2025. I'm Harper LaBelle along with Vincent Turner. Our producer and engineer is Logan Landers, and Logan has a picture of Ty Robinson up there right now. And Vincent, this guy's big, he is strong, and he is one bad mamba jamba.
Moving up the draft boards. When you hear a defensive tackle out of Nebraska, there's one thing. When you hear a lineman, either offense or defense, one thing you think about Nebraska, power football. They're going to be mean and they're going to bring that wood. And you think about all the great D linemen that's played in Nebraska, from Willie Harper to Grant Winston to John Dutton, Neil Smith, Jason Peter. This gentleman right here fits the bill of a Nebraska Cornhusker. Back to you, Hawk.
Yeah, well, let's look at some of the stats here on Mr. Robinson. He's only 6'6". He's 310 pounds. He is a senior. He's out of Gilbert, Arizona, and had a great career at the University of Nebraska. In fact, he played in more games for the Cornhuskers than anybody else in the history of the school. Obviously, COVID has a lot to do with some of that, being a freshman and getting a chance to play. But who isn't going to put a guy that's 6'6" on the field? As long as you can run and you're powerful, you're athletic, and guess what? He's all of those. Here's one thing about him that impressed me, Vincent, from the 0 to the 9 technique, and that means playing right over the center, to all the way outside the tight end. He's done it all. He's got experience at all. And I think for an NFL coach, a defensive line coach especially, to be able to say, well, kid, where do you want to play? And can you do a 3 technique, which is on the outside edge of the center? Can you do a 5? Can you do a 7 outside the tackle? And when he says yes, how are you going to take that guy and not put him on the field? It's amazing. He creates penetration, which is something that everybody looks for. That means his first step, especially on a run, he will either stand up a lineman or he'll get into the backfield and disrupt the flow. He's a gap stuffer. He's got a great first step, got great range from the time that he gets into the backfield to be able to find the ball. He can chase it down well. Vincent, especially on the defensive running side, this guy has what it takes.
Nickname Mr. Penetration. He's an impact both in the run and pass. And as you just mentioned, Hop, he's a very experienced player. But when you go back to college football, he reminds me of a gentleman that came out of Clemson 2 years before I came out of college, had a great career with the San Francisco 49ers, only because he had that mortar, is Jim Stuckey. Remember him? Very good football player with the 49ers. Yeah. Then another guy reminds me of, this guy played at the University of Washington, first-round pick of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Ron Holmes, had a decent career. But Ron Holmes was about the same size, 6'5", 310. It was a guy that wreaked havoc in the middle. But most of all, I like the area he comes from, Gilbert, Arizona. You know who comes out of his neighborhood, that area? Ryan Fitzpatrick and Brock Purdy. So you know the bloodlines there coming out of that area. This guy's a very good football player. But he's violent. He's everything you want in a D tackle. And most of all, Hop, you know this. He's got great length. He's got power. He's got what you need to do to play at the level. He's very versatile in the line of scrimmage. And most of all, you brought an important point today. He's a very experienced football player and a team captain. Back to you, Hop.
Yeah, I've done a lot of things while he was at Nebraska. One of the interesting things that I think anybody will say, can you get your hands up, kid? Are you able to do that and deflect a pass, or at least have your hands in the way and make a quarterback go around you? At 6'6", very ominous. You're looking for a guy that has size. He does need some work, though. He's not a projected early first rounder, can't miss, Hall of Famer. He's got some work to do. He plays a little bit high at 6'6". I would imagine that, but you can get around that, especially when your nickname is Mr. Penetration. When you're a powerful guy, you learn to play a little bit lower at the pro level. You work on it. Next thing you know, you're wreaking havoc in an NFL backfield. He needs to work on his second move a little bit. I think that's obvious. Every player does a second or even a third move, and your moves are going to be different. What you're going to try to do when you're going over a center will be a lot different than when you're outside of a tight end and have a back trying to chip you, using your hands, having a spin move, having that swim move, getting the hands of an offensive guy off of you. I think between now and draft time, and especially once you start getting into a training camp situation, you'll be able to do things like that. It'll be happening for you. And your results against a double team. Because of his size, and if he does play high, if I've got a guard and a center or a guard and a tackle double teaming me, I'll be candid with you. If his response is, I'll take two guys on and give up a yard anytime when I can allow my linebacker to scrape around me and go make the play. You have that ability. But if he gets moved around a little bit too much, that is a concern. But you mentioned that he's tough, he's aggressive. One of the words that I found describing him that I thought was really a fascinating one and fits the bill is relentless. Got a motor, and he just keeps going. Any play within 10 or 15 yards of where he is, he can make a play on it. So a lot of great things that this young man has that I've been impressed with. But he's not a day one guy, right, Vincent? Are we in agreement that this is probably going to be a second
day two guy?
Yeah. High motor, gets to the ball carrier. He's an impact playmaker. His first step, especially when he makes contact with an offensive lineman, gives him a real advantage. He can disrupt the pocket, and he can redirect very well. Those are some of the attributes that I've been able to see for this young man who's a second-team All-Big Ten player, and will be invited to the Senior Bowl. He'll be a part of that.
Game film. All you got to do is ask Shedeur Sanders and Dion, 3 tackles in that game, 1 sack. And then ask Ryan Day and the national champions, the Ohio State Buckeyes. He had 3 tackles in that game and 1 tackle for loss. This is a football player, and I wouldn't expect nothing less him coming out of the University of Nebraska. Bob Devaney, Tom Osborne, the Cornhuskers. Back to you, Hawk.
Yeah, I think he's a great value as a second rounder. And if he's still around in the third, if you don't gobble him up or trade up to get him, that's up to you, right? That's your fault. It's kind of like going to Thanksgiving at the Turner House. If you go home hungry, that's it. That's you know what? We got plenty of food right here. Don't go home hungry. All right. Don't leave this young man on the board after the second round. I promise you, you'll regret it. And the team that swallows him up will definitely go, man, what a hardworking dude. And we're glad we signed him, and he's playing for us. Final thoughts, Vincent.
Very good football player out of a prestigious program that's got a history of producing great defensive linemen. I wouldn't expect nothing less, as I said earlier. This guy's a football player, and he's spent 6 years in that program at Nebraska. That's known for offense and defensive linemen. Back to you, Hawk.
Yeah, I think Nebraska has kind of risen from the ashes. They're not quite out of it yet, but they're in the right direction. And one of the reasons is because of the effort and the hard work that Ty Robinson has given back to his Cornhusker program. We wish him well. He's 6'6". He's 310 pounds. He's powerful. He's aggressive, and he's got a heart, and he wants to do it. So we look forward to seeing how Ty Robinson and his winter and spring turn into something that might lead to a great combine. And who knows, we may be talking about him in the first round. But right now, where he ranks with some of the others, he's going to be a second round pick and a day 2 guy. So we wish him well. So thank you for tuning in to 100 Yards of Football. This is our draft prospect show. And today we feature Ty Robinson, the defensive end from the University of Nebraska. And he's not just a defensive end. He can play just about anywhere on the defensive line. So we wish him well, and we wish you well as well. We appreciate you watching the show. For Logan Landers, our producer and engineer, and for Vincent Turner, our co-host and founder, this is Harper LaBelle saying thank you for being a part of 100 Yards of Football, our draft prospect show. Have a terrific day, everybody.